So I was like, yeah, it's a vase, you know. And when I finished, I put Josh 4:9, and then I was just like all embarrassed, like, you know, like, oh, let me see. I go, no, it's okay, you know. I was all hiding it, and I was hiding it just like when I came in here, and some hermana back there was looking. I was like, oh, how embarrassing. But it's okay. Now I can show it this way, you know. And so I saw this, and I share this last part because it's something that the enemy can use against you and will hold you back. So even though I was at the Bible Institute and I graduated and with Nestor and stuff, actually when Nestor was in my class, when the brother asked us in Christian education, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you come from and all that. And I said, oh, my name is Sammy Ortiz and such and such, and God took me out of homosexuality. I was like, wham, all eyes just came on me. I was like, oh my God. And the pastor came over, he gave me a hug and gave me a kiss on the cheek. And I felt like he welcomed me, and that was like huge. I still kind of get emotional about that because it's huge. And, you know, Nestor was one of those people that would like embrace me, and I never told him this, but just by hanging around with him, affirmed a lot of my mannerism, my manliness, not criticizing, not judging, but accepting and stuff. I never told you that. But yeah, and so I had this drawing, and then I went to a conference, the Urban Youth Workers, the Exodus Conference in Ridgecrest, North Carolina. And, you know, there's a lot of people there. They're struggling the lifestyle. They want to get out. They're tired of it. And there's all these ministers up in the front lined up. So it says line 1, 2, and 3 if you want a hug from a father. 3, like 4, 5, and 6 if you want to know what it is to be hugged by a mother. All these different ones. Like 7, 8, and 9 if you feel that the enemy has not allowed you to do what God has called you to do. And that was one of the things, because the enemy would always tell me, thank you, the enemy would always tell me, like, the minute that people know that the life that you lived and everything else, they're going to close the doors on you. The pastor's going to bring you down. And I was like, okay, God, then what kind of testimony? Why did you save me and heal me from all of these things if I'm not able to share? And I know that there might be people here who might be struggling with other things that you're scared of not being able to share because you're scared that leaders are going to judge you, they're going to criticize you. Well, that's how I was. Even though I had graduated and I had done all of these things and everything had apparently seemed right, I felt I wasn't free to be able to share with people. And I felt the enemy had me by my tongue. And I would go preach and talk about the drugs and the pact that I made with Satan and all the gothicness and all of that. But I felt that wasn't enough. Like, Sam, you need to share the truth. And this one pastor told me, Sam, if a denomination closes the doors on you, that's okay, because God's going to open up some bigger doors. But even though that person told me that, I would believe it to a point, but I felt that the enemy would hold that all the time against me until I went to this conference, and he's like, and I had a badge, and he's like, hi. I go, hi. And I was in that 7, 8, and 9 line. How can I help you? I said, look, I'm from California. I'm just here because, and I just started crying. He's like, what's wrong? And I was like, you know what? I feel I haven't been able to minister to the potential to the fullest because I feel that the enemy holds things against me. And he just started speaking in tongues and all of this stuff. And he put his hands on my shoulders and he just starts praying over me. He's like, let me tell you, God is revealing your life to me right now. And let me tell you how your life was before you came to the Lord. Your life was shattered pieces everywhere. There was glass everywhere. He says, but God has begun to design, he says, and put together this beautiful, colorful vase. And then I just remember 2 years later, this is 2 years later, 2 years before. And 2 years later, I get prophesied over this. That this was my life, that my life was shattered in pieces. And then all the pieces were brought together. He says, and there's been scars that you have. And if you touch your heart, you're going to feel them. And the scars are like they're just black. I remember the outline. This is a guy who's like in North Carolina, has nothing to do with California. And just began to describe this. He says, and I want you to look at this all the time. People might see like, oh, what is that? That's a piece of junk. But for you, this is your life. This is your testimony. This is going to bring impact. This is going to bring faith into someone else's life. Someone who might be struggling, going through the same situation that you went through. So I brought this today because just a reminder that my life was once shattered. My life was in pieces. I was a mess. I was in a pigsty. And from there, that's where God took me out of. And little by little, he began to put all the pieces together. And he said, and tonight, young man, he says, God is bringing the entire restoration and completeness into your life. He says, and he's adding the last piece of glass. He picked it up. And I was like, that's huge. That's why I have a passion for homosexuals. Because I was there once. It's hard. But it's not impossible. There's nothing impossible for God. God set me free of drug addiction. 7.5 years of meth. If you look at research, I've always done a lot of research on that when it comes to meth. Because it's impossible for you to get out of meth on your own. It's impossible. Long-term effects, short-term effects, it's impossible. But God delivered me like this. And I bring this today to you guys. I want to challenge you guys. If you have friends, don't mock them. Don't make fun of them. Or you know someone else. Embrace that person. Because you just never know how much of an impact it's going to be on someone else. Or even on their lives.